Ready on the left? Ready on the right? Good evening, Glendorans. It's 6:02, and today is Monday, April 28th, 2025. This is the regular meeting of the Board of Education of the Glendora Unified School District. We are reconvening from closed session where I am happy to report we have no reportable action. We will move to 3.2. Roll call, please.
Trustee Munoz?
Here.
Trustee Garcia? Here. Clerk Cam?
Present.
President Clifford?
Present.
Please note that Vice President Lopez is absent.
Thank you. We will move to item 3.4, which warms my heart tonight. We will have the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag by the Sutherland First Grade Daisy Girl Scout Troop. So come on up, girls.
Where should they stand? They should stand like they're by the mic. Okay. And then we were confused, there's two flags.
You know what? This one is right here.
Okay.
And but they can point to anyone they want.
Okay, so girls, you wanna line up, and I'll leave you guys to lead it.
They're gonna have to get a little bit closer to the mic, so
Okay.
so that those at home. Yeah.
Okay, get close to the mic. And then together you'll see my hand, okay? A little bit closer. Remember, tell them right hand over your heart.
Right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Okay, the next item is 3.5, which is the adoption of the agenda. I'm going to ask for consideration for two changes on the agenda. So for item 3.7, we have a public hearing. I would like to move item 6.3, which is the discussion about 3.7. So 6.3 will move up to be heard in conjunction with 3.7. And then on item 3.8, which is the developer fee justification, I will also propose that we move item 6.6, which is the following staff report on that.
Gary, can I add also a change?
Yep.
Do you wanna
soon
do
as
that all
I'm done-
together?
As soon as I'm
Okay.
done with this, you can. Let me see where I was. The presentation for item 3.8, which is the public hearing, will be heard in conjunction. So 6.6 will be heard in conjunction with 3.8. Those are the two items I propose, and there's one more.
Yes, I would like to move 6.9 if possible and make it just a discussion and hold on the vote. Being that Mr. Lopez is not here today, I think it's a very important vote that we all participate in. And since he's not here, I'd like to move the vote to the next board meeting. But since we have community members that may want to speak to it, we can continue the discussion portion of it.
Okay, so we will handle those in two different votes. We have the first proposal, which is, there's actually three. The first one is item 6.3 to 3.7. All those in favor of that change, say aye.
Aye.
May I
This-
make it, I'm so sorry, it's 6.5 to right after 3.7.
Okay, I'm sorry, change it 6.3 to 6.5. So that one, 6.5 to 3.7, all those in favor said aye. Is there any opposition? So that change will be made. Dr. Osborne, just don't let me forget that when it comes up. The second change was, again, and these are for the efficacy of the meeting, was 6.6 to 3.8 to be heard in conjunction with each other. May I have a second for that?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, so those two changes will be made. And the last change was to hear item, remind me of the number, I got it.
6.9.
6.9, you want to have just be a discussion item with the vote being put off to the next regularly scheduled meeting. Is that correct?
Correct,
Not to have the vote tonight,
correct.
okay? Any discussion about that?
Is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
There's a second to that. Okay, Any discussion about that? Nope.
No.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any, and I will be a no vote, so it's a 3-1 to move forward with having the discussion but no vote. Is that correct? Okay, perfect, at 6-9. All right, with all those things being said, now may I have an adoption for our agenda tonight?
I'll second.
There's
I'll move to adopt the agenda.
there's a motion to adopt the amended agenda.
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any? Okay, we move forward with the agenda as amended. The next item is item 3.6, which is public comment. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 speaker cards, so thank you very much. You know you have 3 minutes to do that. You come up and speak loud and clear, and please honor the time, and we will honor your time also. The first card I have tonight is for Sam Jones. Come on up, and you get 3 minutes to speak, Mr. Jones. Thank you very much.
Hi, yes, my name's Sam Jones. I have 2 kids who attend Cullen Elementary, and just want to speak on the ethnic studies curriculum. I just want to voice my support for it because I believe that it's important to have. I want my kids to know about the experiences of different people in this country and our community, and I think it's essential so that they are well educated and are able to understand the world around them. So I want them to know the good, the bad, and the ugly of everything, but so that they can be well informed. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jones. We appreciate your comments. The next card I have is Kate Hamilton.
Good evening, School Board Trustees, Superintendent DeGrazia, and staff members. Again, I'm Kate Hamilton. I'm here once again to voice my support for the Ethnic Studies curriculum. I did think that tonight was going to be the vote. It does sadden me that we've been having this debate for more than 3 years now, discussing whether the stories of those who are not in the majority can be heard, whether they can be part of the lesson plan. I do not understand why there isn't overwhelming support for this curriculum. Why aren't their stories just as worthy of being heard as those that are already taught? What is everyone so afraid of? That the truth hurts? That there are parts of our nation's history that are not ones to be proud of? The truth is, there are indeed nasty parts to our nation's history. And not talking about them does not make them go away. We are an extremely fragile nation. If we cannot see why it's vital to learn from these experiences. So, I am asking you to rise above your fears of why you're against this curriculum and vote yes to allow the ethnic studies curriculum to proceed. Let the people who have had no voice be heard. Let their stories be told. Let their American experience be shared. Our students deserve this. Our students can handle this. Thank you.
The next card I have is for Monique Dewson. Thank you, Monique.
Thank you. Good evening. While I have not seen a proposed curriculum for a Glendora Ethnic Studies curriculum, if the Ethnic Studies curriculum is even loosely based off of the California recommended course, then this is not just an innocent social studies curriculum. This is a classroom application of critical race theory's most harmful ideas. It is CRT in action. The praxis of critical race theory in high schools is harmful because it pressures students to view themselves and others primarily through rigid intersections and social categories like race, gender, and class, breeding division. And even if terms like intersectionality are avoided in the curriculum, the praxis demands its teaching. Instead of fostering genuine critical thinking, courses like this demand political conformity, forcing students to interpret every issue through the lens of oppression and power. In doing so, it transforms education into ideological training, not the pursuit of truth or independent thought. No one is afraid of knowing America's history. We must tell an accurate history. We must tell a history that involves slavery, but also looks at the Black slave owners and slave traders. We cannot demonize one group that is labeled as the majority culture for the benefit of victimhood for the Black community. These courses don't promote equity, but frame history as racial struggle, encourages and trains students to participate in Marxist views of racial activism as a necessary response to systemic racism, and to become activist agents for dismantling those systems. Under the banner of allyship and anti-racism, it pressures students to see themselves and each other primarily as members of racial groups, not as individuals belonging to the collective human race with equal dignity and value and worth. It offers indoctrination into whiteness theory, and it fosters resentment. On the Glendora Unified homepage, the mission states, the Glendora Unified School District equips students with knowledge, skill, and character to succeed in college, career, and life in an ever-changing global society. If this really is the mission, I question how the adoption of an ethnic studies curriculum, especially one that is steeped in critical theory, critical race theory, and intersectionality, which institutionalizes division based on oppressed and oppressor categories and subverts critical thinking, is in alignment with your mission. Parents do not send their children to school to be recruited into ideological wars. Children are sent to learn, to reason, to question, and to grow. This ethnic studies course, as I have studied the California recommended curriculum, is not about understanding history. It's about weaponizing history for political ends. It will leave our students more divided, more bitter, and less prepared to succeed in the real world. Our schools should not be training students, or our schools should be training students to think critically, not indoctrinate them into political wars.
Thank you. The next speaker card I have is, I think it's Lene Williams. Thank you, Lene. I did my best.
No, you did a good job. Most people don't. Yes, my name is Lene Williams. I am a parent of 4, all 3 levels of schools here in Glendora. Actively involved PTA, board member, mom, former GUSD employee, and right now I'm currently working in the education world in curriculum development. And I wanted to speak on the ethics curriculum as somebody who's read it, and in defense of the teachers that put so much work and effort into this. Working in curriculum development, I understand exactly how much goes into it. And I know, working with teachers, know exactly how much time and effort our teachers have to devote to this. So for them to take their time to volunteer to be on this board, to create a curriculum, we need to honor their time and their expertise, and we need to validate the work that they put in to pass this curriculum. As a curriculum writer, I can guarantee that there is no curriculum that is perfect the minute it is implemented, that it has to be voted on, it has to be started, and it has to be approved to be able to grow and to develop, and that looking at the curriculum, I love the aspect that it gives, focusing on giving the students an opportunity to come to understand who they are and what they have as value to be able to offer to the world around them. Thank you.
And the last speaker card I have is Wendy Jarvie.
Good evening, I'm Wendy Jarvie. I'm also on the community committee to review the ethnic studies. I just want to start off by saying thank you to the district for accommodating some of the concerns that the board had and that the public had, and working to revise the outline, and also to the board for opening up the discussion to continue leaving the door open to having an ethnic studies course. Having said that, I want to point out that all we've seen is an outline. It's not the actual curriculum. And when I signed up for the committee to review this, they asked us, how would you handle reviewing the curriculum? amount of reading that you would have to do. And it's been a few years and I haven't seen any actual curriculum. It's been an outline. And just from the outline, I can say, Monique, is that your name? Yeah. It is based off of the model curriculum from the state. And so having just an outline that looks like the state's model curriculum is alarming, because she's right. Its purpose is to create activists. And the term civic engagement in the outline leads me to believe that our district is going to be encouraging activism. And the model curriculum uses words like resistance and continue the struggle for liberation. So are we telling our kids that they're not free people in America? That they still have to work for their freedom? It's not right. And I respectfully request that the board and the district put out the curriculum for it to be reviewed by the public before it's voted on. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. I have no further cards for tonight, so I will close public comment at 6:18. Thank you very much for your comments. We appreciate them. And I will move on to our first public hearing of the night, which is 3.8, which will be enjoined. 3.7, you're right, again, is the public hearing for tonight that is going to be enjoined with item 6.5. So what I want to state here, let me get to that item here. Okay, public hearing. Okay, so the first public hearing tonight is now open. It's 6:20, and it's for the initial joint sunshine proposal from the Glendora Teachers Association, and the acronym parenthetically is GTA, just like the auto theft, but Glendora Teachers Association, not Grand Theft Auto, and the Glendora Unified School District for 2025 and 2026. I have no speaker cards. I'll ask if there's any public comments regarding the hearing. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing portion or the public comment portion of this. And I will ask if there's any comments from the members of the Board of Education before we hear the presentation from the responsible manager. So there's no discussion there, so I will turn it over to Dr. DeGrazia for the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Clifford. I will have Dr. Osborne, our Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, and GTA Glendora Teacher Association President Doug Greenquist to present. Thank you.
Thank you. Board, with your approval through board action this evening, we request the formal opening, or what we call sunshining, of negotiations between the district and the Glendora Teachers Association for a successor collective bargaining agreement for the 25-26 school year. As a successor agreement, all articles of the current contract will be open for review, discussion, and potential modification during the negotiation process.
Both GTA and the district are committed to a collaborative and productive process focused on strengthening the services we provide to students and supporting the needs of our certificated staff. We approach these negotiations with mutual respect, trust, and a shared goal of reaching a fair and timely agreement.
We are grateful for the dedication and hard work of all of our certificated employees. Some of them are here today, and we appreciate the efforts of both negotiation teams as they prepare for this important work. Again, thank you for your consideration tonight.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your comments. Now bringing it back to the board one more time, based on anything you heard, any additional comments on this issue? All right, good luck. Thank you so much.
All right, we appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
The public hearing is now closed at 6:22. Thank you. Okay, the next item is item 3.8, which is a public hearing.
I thought we were gonna do the discussion, I thought you were gonna vote on it.
Oh, yeah, you're right. The public hearing's closed, so now, based on no more discussion, I'll ask, is there a motion for approval of item 6.5?
A motion to approve item 6.5.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, then that officially closes that business. Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Okay, the next item is item 3.8. We're gonna do the same thing. It's a public hearing for an adoption of a developer fee justification study and an increase in the statutory school facility fee. That being said, the public hearing is now open. It's 6:22 for the developer fee justification study and an increase in the statutory school facility fee. I don't have any public comment cards. Are there any comments regarding this hearing? That being said, I will close the public hearing, the public comment portion of public hearing at 6:22, and I'll bring it back for a moment to the Board of Education. Is there any comments from the Board of Education prior to the presentation? There is not? Okay. So the public hearing portion of this is now closed. I'm going to ask Dr. DeGrazia for a presentation of item 6.6 for the vote on this issue.
Thank you, Mr. Clifford. Members of the board, Mrs. Jeanette Walzak, Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, will present on the developer fee study and proposed adoption.
All right. Thank you, Dr. DeGrazia. Good evening, everyone. Tonight, we are presenting for your consideration and action Resolution Number 24-25-14, which recommends the adoption of the 2024 Developer Fee Justification Study, the associated increase in statutory school facility fees, and the adoption of a CEQA Notice of Exemption. Under Code Section 17620, school districts are authorized to levy fees on new residential and commercial industrial development to fund the construction or reconstruction of school facilities. The 2024 Developer Fee Justification Study prepared by SchoolWorks demonstrates the district's need to increase its developer fees to address its impacts. The study shows that the district is justified in adopting the maximum Level 1 fees recently authorized by the State Allocation Board, which is currently $5.17 per square foot for residential construction and 84 cents per square foot for commercial and industrial construction. Currently, our fees is at $3.36 for residential, and the 84 cents is an increase from 54 cents. The last justification study conducted by the school district was in 2014, so it's been about over 10 years, and every 2 years, the State Allocation Board increases or does their study to increase these fees. The study also confirms that without these adjustments, the district will not be able to adequately fund facility needs to serve students generated by new developments. The funds collected will be used toward eligible projects such as new construction, modernization, and updating some facilities such as the renovation of the Glendora High School Aquatic Center, just to name a few. Additionally, in accordance with Education Code 17621, this action is statutorily exempt from the requirements of the California Environmental Quality Act, which is the CEQA, and a notice of exemption will be filed. And thank you for your consideration.
All right, thank you for that report. And again, it's an increase on the residential and commercial per square foot fee from the numbers that were stated, as you heard in the presentation, and raising them to $5.17 per square foot for residential development and 84 cents per square foot for commercial. All right, we had the presentation. I'll bring it back to the board. Is there any further discussion on this issue?
I do have a question. Thank you for picking that up. I think it was a conversation we had in closed session where we realized, like, hey, when was the last time we did that? Gary mentioned it. So I'm so glad that we finally have this resolved. But just for the benefit of the community, can you tell us more or less what kind of revenue, what does that look like on a yearly basis as in the past, and what is the projection?
So in the past, depending on basically any type of new homes, anything over 500,000 square foot, they have to pay this, 500 square foot, excuse me, have to,
That's good too.
have to pay this fee. So depending.
Well, of note, that's a lot of the new ADUs,
Yes,
correct?
correct. So anywhere, We average anywhere from 250,000 per year to 350 a few years ago when we have some of the new development come up. It's closer to almost $500,000 dollars. So with this increase, it will definitely help the district with some of the projects to help some of our facility needs that we need to do.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Go ahead.
All right.
Quick question on page 1 of the report. One of the things it says that I thought was just interesting was that the study demonstrates a need for $7.65 per square foot.
So the justification study, they basically said they would like, I mean, that's the recommendation. However, the school, the board, they set a maximum amount, which in this case is the $5.17.
Very cool, very cool. Thank you.
No further questions. All right, we've heard the presentation. We had a Q&A. Is there a motion for approval?
I'll motion to approve.
There's a motion. Is there a second? There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? All right, the motion passes. Thank you very much. The public hearing and the vote are now closed. Okay, that moves us to 4.1, student board member reports. We do not have those tonight. Obviously, our student board member is not here. So we'll move on to item 4.2, which is comments from the Board of Education. We'll start at my far right, Dr. Munoz.
All right. Well, I know we had a long break. We haven't been here in about a month, but I got to enjoy the Glendora Education Foundation. They had a great event, the Sip and Support, which I went there and supported. It was a great event. I got to hear some great speakers, and it was a great time for families and friends just to gather and support, our school district. And so I just want to say thank you for to the Glendora Education Foundation for putting such a great event. I really enjoyed it. Want to appreciate everyone coming here today and speaking about the ethnic studies. I appreciate you, making your comments. We're all working hard together on this, and I just want to say thank you for all the people who put the time and effort into it, because I know you guys have made a lot of sacrifices, and we're not going to vote on it today, but we'll revisit it next time. And that'll be it.
All right, thank you. Dr. Cam.
I'm looking forward to a very busy May, which I'm really excited about. I sat down and looked at the calendar and realized that I have 2 full days that have no board member events on it, which is great. Yeah, we'll film it quick. But it's been great. It's been really exciting to look at the school year coming to a close and people getting ready to start all the celebration of their hard work. It's been great to be meeting with teachers and the executive cabinet and everybody else. So thank you again to all of you for your time and effort in trying to wrap our head around everything, which has been really good. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to pushing through and getting things going. And I'm excited for all the events coming up. So keep checking in. It'll be a blast.
Thank you. Trustee Garcia.
All right, I don't even want to think about May. I have a senior, and it is a crazy, crazy month, both on the board and as a mom of a senior. Plus, I don't want to cry, so we're not going to talk about that. I do want to say that I'm part of the board for the San Gabriel Valley ROP, and we're in the middle of a strategic planning for the regional occupation programs, and it's incredibly important. So I met with some staff members and the administration at the high school to kind of get some feedback as far as the CTE pathways at the high school and at Whitcomb, and just to kind of know what exactly they want me to advocate for as with my position on the board. We had great conversations. One of the things that I did want to mention that I'm very excited about is that the ROP did get a grant where we will be hiring a CCPA, College Career Pathway Advisor. This advisor will be working directly with our staff, our counselors and administrators, both at the high school at Whitcomb and at GHS. I'm very excited because I think it's an extra person on campus that is going to help our students and explain to them the pathways and have a more directed guidance as to what these pathways look like. Hopefully it'll improve our completion numbers. So those are students that actually start the pathways and complete the pathways and get a certification at the end of the year. That's something that we've struggled with in the past, and I hope that this new position will help. Of course, working alongside our counselors, I'm very excited about that. I'm very grateful for the ROP and all the work that they put in to get us extra funding for this, because this position will be completely paid for by this grant, not coming out of our budget or the high school's budget, which is amazing. I do want to talk about GEF. I know it was an incredible event. I don't want to rehash that too much because I wish more people would participate. I know they had limited capacity, but it was an incredible new take on Food for Thought. It was called Sip and Support. I know we met and exceeded our goal. I want to say thank you to the planning committee because I was part of those meetings and it was tough trying to reinvent something that was so successful for so many years. But fundraising looks different today than it did before COVID. And so we really had to put our thinking hats on and realize like we have to do something different. And it was extremely exciting to see how the positive feedback that we got from the community who did attend. I was happy to see so many staff members there. So again, I hope the foundation will come in and tell us exactly how much they raised. I'm sure they'll do that. And I can't wait for you guys to hear those numbers. The Rotary Choral Festival. As a Rotarian, I'm very proud of that event, and also have never really heard exactly how much gets donated from that event. And so I reached out to the powers that be and got a number for you. So the Rotary Choral Festival was able to bring in $14,300 for our choral program, which is extremely, extremely important. As you know, funding is kind of a little rocky right now. So again, this is all community. So I want to once again thank the community for being so gracious with supporting these programs, because things like band and choir and all that, they need our support. They need for us to go to these events, and they're very inexpensive and they're extremely entertaining, and these kids are just so talented. So I encourage you to continue to support those programs. And thank you again to the Rotary. I hope they can come and give us one of those fancy big checks, because that's always a good photo op. Another thing, the GHS All School Awards, I was unable to attend, and it was very sad for me, but it was my daughter's 18th birthday. Can't be in two places at the same time, but my heart was with them, and I'm so proud of every single person that was there, that was recognized for all of their hard work throughout the year. Very proud of you all. I have so much, but I'm going to wrap it up with the LCAP meeting that we recently had. It is always very enlightening to me to sit at those meetings and just hear not just our staff feedback on what they would like to see our district doing, but our parents, our students. And I just want to remind the community that the LCAP, the Local Control and Accountability Plan, is meant to include us as community members. So, let's be more engaged and find out when that happens and come in and show up, because we do want that feedback. And more importantly, you have an opportunity to participate in this by completing the surveys that get sent out. And those surveys and that information, I know we're all so busy, but I promise you it's quick, and that directly informs our planning for the district. And if we don't know what we don't know. So if you don't tell us what you want to see more of, what your students are struggling with, we had a lot of good student participation, because a lot of teachers were very genius and said, you're doing it in class, which was great, because it's important. We want to know what they want to see more of. So I just want to encourage community members and parents, when they see those surveys, understand that we really do look at that data, and it really does inform our practices here at the district. And more importantly, it determines what we fund. And as the city of Glendora likes to say, what gets funded gets done. And so I want to remind you that your feedback is extremely important. So when you see those surveys, please fill them out. I'm sorry you don't get a Starbucks gift card for doing it, but you'll get a lot more by giving us your feedback. So I think that's all I have. And thank you.
Thank you. Just a few. Thank you. Just a few quick comments. Thank you for all the emails and all of the communications I've had this month since our last meeting. I try to respond to all of them, at least as a member of the board, if it's all of us, or just to me, if it's something sent just to me. But I wanted you guys to know that I've spent a lot of time in the last 30 days. As usual, meeting with the city, meeting with our executive cabinet and the appropriate people on working on improving all of our school fields and all of the athletic things that we do. You'll see there's some new playground equipment in some of our facilities, which is just beautiful stuff. And we've gotten a lot of positive feedback about that. But I'm also at all of our different fields on Saturday morning and Sunday sometimes, and then during the week for the practices up at Goddard and all the other fields that we use. And we're still improving those fields and working on them. So all of our American and national, all the little leagues and Lassie leagues and all the things that we do can be in the best shape possible. And we're taking steps to get that done. But I just wanted you to know that, you know, at least in my one voice, I'm committed to working with parents on that to make sure that's improved. And I think the city's done a heck of a job in collaboration with our maintenance department on making steps to make our fields better and to make Louis Pompey Field, which most of us know is the pit, usable. And again, if you haven't been to Louis Pompey on a weekend here, every field is full and it's just, there's a lot of activity. And then during the week, there's a lot of other school activity and teams that are down there. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Paul, who isn't here tonight, but him and I and the superintendent and the executive cabinet did attend the All Schools Award that was held, and it was held the same night as the Citizen of the Year, so we kind of played both tunes there. But I have to say that the high school gym was full, and the only thing that was better than being on the stage talking about Samantha Sachs and all of our incredible academic athletes was being a parent of one of those people in the stands and all of the pride that was in the room that night. So, I mean, the board, we all wanted to be there and we always divvy those things up, but that was a very cool night on campus, going over all of the awards for our scholars that are there. Is there anything, are you going to talk about that a little bit too, when you get to it?
No, I think you got it covered though.
So I think that was really important. And I just wanted to reiterate that there's a lot of things going on and we all have full-time jobs too. So working this next month is going to be very challenging with all the events, preparing for graduation, making sure that all of our facilities are taking place. You know, my focus is going to be on focusing on the facilities, focusing on the budget, and focusing on the voice of the parents to make sure that we have the best academic product that we can have. So I have nothing further to say from that standpoint, so I will transition to the most important report tonight, which is 4.3, the superintendent's report.
There are several more important coming after me, that's for sure. Thank you, Mr. Clifford, members of the board, distinguished guests. Some of our guests in the back there may specifically know the minutes and seconds, but there are 5 weeks of school left. It's the final 5 here. We are in state testing, full flight state testing across the district. AP testing is next at the high school level. That sustained effort and excellence is what we're looking for now. We especially appreciate the family support and encouragement and attendance and eating healthy and not on mornings of testing days, but every day. Lunch included, of course, at school. Prior to our next meeting in May, on May 12th, we will celebrate our retirees for the year. I see some of them may be sitting in this room just now. Congratulations ahead of time, and we wish that outstanding group well as they transition to the next phase of life. May 6th and May 7th, 2 special events, both at Azusa Pacific University, both at 7 p.m. The annual Ross Orchestra Festival is on May 6th. The very next night is the Gordon Norman Band Festival on May 7th. And we want to, special thanks ahead of time. I know we have 2 resolutions to look at in celebration of our staff, our classified and certificated staff, for their recognition days and weeks that are coming, but for their unwavering commitment to all things GSD, to all students, all families, to each other. As colleagues, we thank them, and they're the ones that make us proud to be GSD, and so we're very appreciative of them and making us look so good so often, so much appreciated. Mr. Clifford mentioned the new playground equipment. That was due to a state grant from the Extended Learning Opportunities Program grant. And that is the first time we figure, when you look back in the record books, and Mr. Parada and his team did a wonderful job. Nancy Cuevas in purchasing did a wonderful job to secure the items and schedule the installation. Brand new playground equipment at an elementary school is a big deal. It opened today at the preschool as well, and I drove by when those students were getting on for the first time, just happened to hit it just right. They were over the moon, ecstatic. We are still awaiting Stanton, final fixes there and punch lists and fill the pour and play as well as La Fetra. But when you get a chance to see those playground structures and the safety that's built in and around them and the creativity of use, you'll be very impressed. Really, really, really nice, and thanks to Business Services for making that happen. We also want to thank the Glendora Police Department for their ongoing collaboration. We had our quarterly articulation meeting with them to plan for the finish, a strong finish to the school year. And we want to thank School Resource Officer Morrison. He is finishing up his time with us. He's been with us for, I think, 4 years. And so he's finishing up his stint as a school resource officer. We are welcoming back School Resource Officer Crystal Goings to the School Resource Officer position, and we look forward to working with her starting in August. And one final congratulations. I don't know if she's here. She might be home because she had to finally sleep. But this person spent endless nights here at the district. I want to say 3 consecutive all-nighters. Not fun all-nighters. Difficult all-nighters to fix technology concerns and bugs that were coming up prior to testing to ensure that our students and staff had the best testing experience and environment. At the same time, she was defending her dissertation to receive her doctorate. She has successfully done so. So I want to join me in congratulations, Dr. Christy Espino, for earning her doctorate, and so well deserved. And congratulations to her, and thank you to her and her family for being patient, for the extra time and diligence that and care that she put in making sure technology is running smoothly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That moves us to a staff presentation, item 5.1, GHS field presentation. Ms. Walzak.
Good evening, Board.
Sorry, everybody. Good evening again. Good evening, everyone. So tonight we're here to talk about and present an overview of the options to address the safety concerns and facility improvements for the GHF, for the Glendora High School athletic fields. My name is Jeanette Walzak. I'm the Assistant Superintendent Business Services, and then we have here Mr. Anthony Parada, the Chief of Maintenance and Operations. And we want to thank the board in advance for your time and engagement in this very important project. The purpose of this presentation is basically to share the current field conditions, review some of the safety concerns received from students in the community, and then present some professional vendor options for the field renovation, and then also talk about and discuss some of the estimated costs for each option. Some of the feedback that's been received by various members of the board as well as our staff over at the high school is regarding the field safety, such as tripping, uneven surfaces, and also we've heard concerns that there has been some injuries related to while the athletes are playing their sports. And then, of course, how the field condition is impacting our athletics and then the student use. And then we want to come up with a desire for a timely and sustainable solution. And then I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Prada.
For the site conditions, it's approximately 120 square feet of turf inside the track. We had a few vendors come out. We had a few vendors come out for some proposals to look at the irrigation, some of the grading, the crowning in the middle, the weeds that are growing, the multiple species of weeds that are growing, to kind of get an idea of what it would cost to do a recovery, a sod installation, as well as a synthetic turf cost. So what we have done this past year with some of the funds for the track and field is we replaced the surface on the long jump running. That was just prior to me arriving here at Glendora. We repaired the exterior bleachers. We installed and replaced some of the sleeves and the poles and the netting for the shot put area to make it complete. One side was missing. We've purchased the Smithco Sandstar ride-along with attachments, as you can see right there, to drag the track, especially after the rains. The track takes a beating. We added about 14 tons of track mix for the running track, and we also had the goalpost painted yellow. So some of the vendors that came out were Greenfield Landscaping and Maintenance out of Hacienda Heights, Al Barrios and Associates out of San Dimas. They were able to give us a proposal for the recovery. Mariposa Landscape, we're still waiting for their proposal, as well as Ono Construction, who does the construction for synthetic turf and Benyon track.
And they were the company that did the Louis Pompey Park.
Yeah. So you'll see option one was field recovery. Option one is field recovery or renovation, where basically they kill the weeds off, laser level, grade it, add amendments, aerate, and then they'll seed and fertilize and keep it closed basically for 8 weeks to grow. The two proposals we received from Greenfield and Barrios, you can see they're pretty comparative in price. So that's an annual, I should say that's a beginning. After a year of usage, there'll be a lot of wear and tear, and almost to where this would be an annual cost.
So this is basically a short-term solution, so you're gonna have to do it basically every year at the very minimum.
Option two is to install sod, so the process is pretty much the same of killing the weeds off, laser grading, do a soil prep, do some minor irrigation adjustments, and then we would either roll or piece sods, and you see the price difference there is $249,850 from Greenfield, and it almost doubles with Al Barrios. And I'm basing that on their square footage, or price per square footage is almost double. And what they would be planning is, for most part, is Bermuda, hybrid Bermuda, with a combo of Kentucky bluegrass or winter rice. Option three is synthetic turf. So we did get one proposal from Greenfield Landscaping at $1.1 million. And we did walk with Ono Construction, who does the field turf. They gave me a verbal of up to 2.5. That's including the track.
So the 2.5 million includes the track, rubberized track, as well as the turf for the field, and then it will also include checking out the drainage, the wall. Is that including the extending?
Yeah, because they said they would have to put a retaining wall on the baseball side, as well as shift the track over, new concrete edging, probably relocate the softball, baseball, batting cages. So there's a lot of additional work besides just installation. Okay, so some considerations: turf versus, natural grass versus synthetic turf. As you saw in the proposals, the turf costs anywhere from 1 million up to 2.5 million, depending on how much added what we're gonna add. The lifespan is anywhere from 8 to 12 years. As long as depending on the wear and tear and your regular maintenance, it'll last to the extent, as opposed to the lawn service of 62,000. The lifespan is 1 year, and then you would have to, for the most part, almost do it all over again.
So this is basically the upfront costs versus the life cycle benefits related to natural grass versus artificial grass. And then for the maintenance needs, for the artificial, we would still need to do, for example, at least an annual disinfect.
Yeah, what we would do as internally, we would purchase attachments which would do a sweeping or a grooming to bring the grass back up from not laying down. It helps with compaction and it keeps the infill in place. Another attachment that we would drag it would collect anything that's trapped inside the grass, picks up debris. There's also an attachment that you rake it. So it's similar to, I'm gonna say mowing, but it's just bringing the artificial turf back to life, back to freshness. There's also an annual sanitizing, especially with COVID. They now do the sanitizing. The pros and cons of, again, you don't have to water it. You do have to replace infill. No broken sprinklers, no aeration, no fertilizer, no weed control when you have synthetic.
And also you can basically use it year round, right? Because you're not having to regrow grass, so.
And you're not dependent on whether it rains or not the next day. Because with it being on level, you have a lot of puddles or water that stays there for days. Timeline impacts, well, our summers are cut down to, it's 9 weeks, but it's actually less because football practices during the summer. So the time down is we need at least 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks on the natural grass, whereas the synthetic turf, it's immediate, a day down maybe to maintain.
So once we hear back from the other two companies, such as Ono and Mariposa, we'll come back and present that or communicate that with the board. But for right now, we invite the board to ask any questions or share thoughts. And we want to just reiterate also that we're here to support with any additional information that the board is requesting in order to make an informed decision for the safety of our students and our community members.
Thank you very much for that presentation. We'll go ahead and we'll bring it back to the board for a minute to see if there's any questions or comments. I'll start out. I don't have any questions or comments, but I'm really a fan of doing the best job that we can of rehabbing the entire thing. I don't want to do it piecemeal personally. I think that, it sounds good if we wanted to do some immediate action, but I think you just have to do it again quickly. And I'm a fan of just redoing the whole thing with turf and getting the track done right and all the things that we have to do, which is the option 3. That's just my personal opinion. I don't have a lot of questions about it. I just know that I think our high school, how it performs academically and sports-wise, as evidenced in our last all all GHS meeting that we had, they deserve to have this level of playing field, and we're gonna have to figure out how to fund it, whether it's with, other entities, but, my discussion as it relates to this is going towards your option 3. I have no further questions. So we'll start at the left with trustee Garcia and move across the board.
Thank you for bringing this presentation. It's been a few months since I requested it, and I'm very happy that it's here because it gets the conversation started and hopefully going in the right direction. My intention with requesting this presentation was more than anything transparency for our community. I wanted them to understand what this looks like, where we're at, what we've done, the type of money that is required to do this. And so this gets that conversation started. So thank you for doing this. Now, I'm a little confused with option 3 with the 2 different options. One, it does not include the track?
Correct.
Okay, and the second one, so we're not comparing apples to apples. So does Greenfield Landscaping not do track?
No.
Okay, so then we would need to get a whole new quote from someone who can, so we can compare apples to apples, right?
Correct, so
Okay.
that's what we're waiting for. I believe Mariposa does, so once we get the proposal from Mariposa, we should have a better idea or a comparison to see if, is it Greenfield and another proposal
Well,
are
speaking with Ono Construction, they are a product of Target Sports. Target Sports owns now Filter and Binion. So they're kind of grabbing that whole market of the synthetic turf and track.
Okay, so personally, I'm 1 of 5. I would love to see a more, apples to apples comparison, and also a more holistic approach to this repair or, field thing. Like, does this include everything that was mentioned by administration at GHS that needs to be addressed? Or are we gonna then come back and say like, oh, we didn't include this, and now that's an additional $500,000, right? It's better to get a good estimate, seeing everything, and then we can remove things or stage them out as needed depending on the funding available. So I would like to see more of this scope included in these estimates. I don't know if that's already in there
We would have
or
to
not.
probably consider getting an architect then. I mean, because these are general contractors.
Right, and so this is what's scary to me, because people may see this 2.5 and think, hey, that's not that much. But the reality is that it is not 2.5, right? If we really get down to like, okay, now we need an architect, now we need all this. The reality is this is a little deceiving in that this is just kind of like a very really quick, let me give you quickly, bottom line what this would be, but the reality is that we're talking about a lot more than this.
It really depends on what you want to add. I mean, the drainage, restrooms, lighting.
Well, drainage is it's necessary. That's not
So, I
something
mean,
whether you want to add it or
So
not.
The contractor, the construction contractor, I mean, I think he gave us a good estimate as far as being in the industry, and that's what he does. But again, you said it, it's what do we want to add, what do we leave out?
And maybe I'm a little jaded because of the pool situation, where we started with, 2.5, 3 million, and then we ended up, with double that. So this is why I'm being, cautiously optimistic about this and saying, what, let's make sure that we have included everything before we come back, so that the community understands, is this even something that we can do? What does this look like? Do we have this kind of money? Is this something that we're going to have to get a bond in order to fully put in place for our students? We just need to be very transparent about that. As far as what money we actually have available, I'm sure we can work with other entities like the city or grants, talking to our legislators. But the reality is that this is a community effort. This is going to have to come from the community, and because people need to understand that this is not something that we can fund from our general fund, correct?
No.
So that is the kind of talk that I want to make sure that we're having with our community, so they understand, it's because then then they see the balance on our budget, and it's like, it looks like we have money, but we don't. We can't use it towards this, and so we need to really find out what the funding would be for something like this. Do we have that kind of money? What does it take? Do we need like I said before, do we need a bond, and what does that look like for this kind of work? So I thank you both for doing the work. I understand that this is kind of just an overview, and I appreciate it because it was necessary. But I don't know if the plan is to come back once you have all these other estimates, or where do we stand with that? Dominic, do you know? Dr. DeGrazia?
Yeah, we'd like to see the other estimates and see where we are in there, see if there are other experts in the field, such as referenced Ono Construction. I mean, that they do that kind of work, and we can certainly pull other districts or entities or nearby communities who've done some similar projects and get a more specific number. Certainly that 2.5, I would think, would be low for all in for a track and field. I would think it'd be much higher.
And then with that said, since if turf is the preferred solution, I personally would like to see records or any kind of research on the health and for this field, because there's been a lot of talk about this might not be the best option for kids to be playing in turf fields. So those are questions that I will definitely have. So I'm sure these people that provide these turfs have that type of data, but I would like to have it available when they do come back. That's all I have.
A couple questions. There was an account and a fundraising effort years ago. Does that account still stand, and do we know the balance of that account?
So yes, that account still stands. When the fundraiser was done back in 2008, I believe, it started out with roughly about $200,000, and then over the years, it earned some interest. So at one point, it was about $240,000. And then when we did the work that we presented earlier today, we use basically it's Fund 25.1 capital projects related to the track and field. And so we've used some of the fund, and I believe the balance is close, less than $100,000.
Okay. And then is this field part of the MOU with the city? Because I know this is not part of that.
I don't think it's not part of the MOU.
Okay. Was there a reason that was carved out at the time, or do we?
At that time, I believe until now too, just because at GHS, so we don't have a lot of fields. So instead of having one field for each sport, whether it's baseball, softball, soccer, we're utilizing the same field for various sports, right? Yeah. So then basically throughout the year, even in the summertime, we're utilizing the field for our use. So
there's not like an opportunity for the community to use it?
Correct.
Got it. And with this is all completed, I assume that all of these sports, I know you said you had met with the site administrators. I'm trying to think how I want to put this. Which events or which organizations on campus use this field? Because I know it's football, track, field.
Football, track and field, soccer. I'm not quite sure, but I think field hockey uses it as well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and the lower, like for it's a practice, but it's also, they use it for games for freshmen.
Yeah. And at this point, they are still playing on it, or they're currently having to go somewhere else to?
They are playing on it.
Okay.
Correct.
Very cool. And then I'm trying to think the last thing. Oh, so I'm sorry, I'm trying to bounce around. For the $2.5 million estimate, that did not include lighting or the bleachers, correct?
No, so that's really
Or
just
stands.
the artificial turf for the field as well as
The track.
The track, correct. We did meet with the administrators at Glendora High School, Principal Norrell, Mr. Llewellyn, and Mr. Tilton, to get their feedback and input on what the needs are for the fields. And of course, they want what's best for
Sure.
the students and the community and athletics and whatnot. So if possible, of course, we want to go you know, we want to do everything,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So,
I'm sure that can be hard to, it can be hard to edit some of that stuff down to the necessities. So, but the track then, that does not include the current long jump? Or it does include the long jump as part of the track?
It would probably have to be redone.
It would be, okay. And then you said something about dismantling and moving the batting cages. Would that be rebuilding them in another site, or it's just like they're dismantling them and doing their thing?
Just dismantling.
Okay.
so basically, right now, the track has 7 lanes. So the high school, if we're going to basically renovate and redo everything, they would, of course, they would like it to be CIF compliance, where you would have 9 lanes. So in order to have the 9 lanes, you would have to shift some of those things, so that way they can extend the lane and be able to host track meets, invitationals, and whatnot.
I think that's it for me. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it, guys.
Of course, thank you.
Any comments?
Okay, yeah, just
Sorry.
have you talked to, I guess, the coaches too, like as far as like their preference for grass and turf?
We did not talk to the coaches. We basically got the input from the athletic director, which I'm sure he's heard feedback from our coaches as far as what the needs are or what the desires are.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, oh, sorry.
Oh.
I didn't turn my mic on. So, as far as, you know, doing it right, I would love doing it right. I think we probably might need an architect to make a nice design. Possibly even put, you know, lights too. You know, sometimes, practices go late. I would love the artificial grass, in my personal opinion. I know it's expensive, but if there's a will, there's a way, because I see other high schools that have it. And so we as a community need to figure it out, and we need to do this, because we want what's best for our kids. We want them to excel in sports. We have a lot of great athletes, and a lot of them go to Division I schools, and we want to prepare them for that next level. So I definitely, you know, want to support artificial turf. But I understand we have to do, you were saying the CIF compliant, we have to do 9 lanes? Okay, so you mentioned a retaining wall. Where would that have to go?
Because on the north end of the track, you have the baseball field that's pretty close.
Okay.
And it's on a slope, so it slopes up.
You know how many feet that would be?
About 30 feet, 20 to 30 feet.
In the height, you know, like level?
Goes up to about 4 to 6 feet.
4 to 6, okay, so it won't be no gaudy looking thing, okay. Just want to make sure. All right, and let me see, one more thing, I had to look at this. As far as, my suggestion too is going forward, you know, I'm sure the city's probably gonna require us to do a soils compaction report, engineering, especially for that wall, so I think the board, we should look at maybe, you know, the bigger picture as far as, you know, if we're gonna do this construction, we do it right. We can do maybe a temporary fix with the grass and seal maybe for a year or two until we get this nice design approved. Just because I care about the safety of the students, and I know there's been some injuries, and a lot of parents have brought up the field as a reason why, you know, their child was injured. But we want to, you know, safety is number one, and so if we have to do temporarily, I think maybe we should look at an estimate for maybe a year just to put hydro seed or sod, and then look at the long picture of just, you know, maybe doing artificial turf. That's my suggestion to the board, so.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion from the board? All right, well, I think that we covered, you know, it sounds like there's some unanimity on trying to improve that as soon as possible, and I guess we look forward to the next presentation with what you find when you get the rest of the estimates, correct?
Correct.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, board members, for your time and leadership, and thank you for keeping our students' safety first.
Perfect, and thank you, board, for your thoughtful questions. The next item is we have a few discussion action items. The first one is item 6.1, to recommend the Board of Education adopt Resolution 24-25-15, recognizing May 5th through May 9th, 2025 as California Teacher Appreciation Week, and May 7th, 2025 as California Day of the Teacher.
Yes,
Dr.
sir.
DeGrazia.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Clifford, members of the board, distinguished guests. Again, this is the time of the year that we recognize our classified and our certificated staff for their distinguished weeks and recognition and commendation of their daily work. And it's not just this day or that week. It is a daily appreciation for what they do as professionals in supporting our students, their families, and one another. So with thanks and appreciation to them, we bring both of these items forward for your consideration.
Thank you. Well, that's 6.1 and 6.2, I believe, right? So we'll handle 6.1 first. There'll be a resolution posted as a result of this, which is the Teacher Appreciation Week and California Day of the Teacher. May I have a motion for that resolution, please?
I'll motion.
There's a motion. Is there a second? Is there any further discussion?
Can I just mention something?
Yes.
I'm happy to see this, of course, every year. And of course, we're very grateful for our teachers, but I just want to remind the community that your PTA at all your sites, they're the ones doing a lot of this work. And as I mentioned earlier, fundraising gets harder and harder, and so does getting volunteers. So it's as simple as bringing in a case of water, dropping off 24 cookies. I guarantee you that every single PTA at every campus is trying to get donations or bodies to do some of this work. I know I am for GHS, shameless plug. But anyway, just reach out to your PTA. You don't have to be a PTA member to help out for this week, but I know that they're all looking for volunteers and donations. So anything you can do to help them celebrate our teachers would be greatly appreciated.
So it's going to be resolved that the Board of Education and the Glendora Unified School District recognize May 5 through 9 as Teacher Appreciation Week and honor the contribution of the certificated employees and proclaim May 7, 2025, California Day of the Teachers. May I have a motion? I did that? And I got a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is there any opposition to that wonderful resolution? There is not. Thank you. That passes. And we'll move right on to 6.2 where we don't need another presentation because we had that one. So 6.2 will be the same thing, that we will resolve that the Glendora Unified School District recognize and wish to honor the contributions of the classified professionals to quality education in the state of California and in the Glendora Unified School District, and declare the week of May 18 through 24, 2025 as Classified School Employee Week in the Glendora, Unified School District. Can I have a motion?
I'll motion.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
There is no opposition, so we'll move on from that. Congratulations to both employee groups. The next item is item 6.3 we already handled. No, 6.3 is approval of the implementation of the tentative agreement between the Glendora Unified School District and the Classified and School Employee Association, known as the acronym CSEA, Glendora Chapter Number 247, as presented. Superintendent?
Thank you again, and with appreciation to CSEA and the district negotiating teams for their work in this tentative agreement, Dr. Osborne will summarize the tenets.
Thank you, Dr. DeGrazia. On April 28th, the district and CSA Chapter 247 reached a tentative agreement, which has since been ratified by members. Key highlights of the agreement include a one-time off-schedule bonus of 2% of an employee's total salary, or $1,250, whichever is greater. And this is to assist in offsetting the cost of health benefits, because that is tied to AMIM funding. Updates and clarifications to contract language within several articles, including salary, fringe benefits, leaves of absence, safety, transfers, and hours and overtime are also conducted. The total fiscal impact to the district is $554,349, with $323,966 previously being budgeted for. This results in an additional expenditure of $230,383 as certified by the AB 1200 documents that business provided, which is in item 6.4. To make this agreement happen, the district negotiating team had to look at our AMIM funding and make some budget adjustments, which we have done. As AB 1200 states, we can afford this salary adjustment for our classified employees. This agreement reflects very collaborative work that the district and CSCA to support the employees while maintaining fiscally responsible. We thank the Board of Education for their consideration of this agreement and express our appreciation to both the CSCA and district negotiating teams for their mutual respect, collaboration, and commitment to problem solving throughout the negotiation process. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. I think this is an important item, and we really appreciate the working together and the spirit of encouragement as you went through that issue. So we'll bring it back to the board if there's any questions or comments, or can we have a motion? There's a motion for approval.
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion or comments from the board on item 6.3? Nope, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Dr. Osborne, that passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
And congratulate the CSEA. The next item, 6.4, I believe is attached to this, AB 1200, the public disclosure agreement, and directing staff to adjust the appropriate accounting codes and update the 2024-25 district budget. Dr. DeGrazia?
This again with thanks of the collaboration between the two departments, business services and personnel services, to ensure that all appropriate documents are filed with the LA County Office of Education and that we have the appropriate funds to fund such a tentative agreement. So well done by all groups. Thank you.
Thank you. So I bring item 6.4 back to the board. Is there any discussion? Is there a motion for approval?
A motion.
A motion, is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposition? 6.4 passes, thank you. Well, 6.5 we did, and 6.6 we already handled, so 6.7 is the revision of Board Policy 5030, Student Wellness, as presented for the first reading. And I will also include in this, if we could waive the second reading and handle this tonight. I'll ask our clerk if that's possible, but move forward with the presentation. Dr. DeGrazia.
Thank you again. I'd like to invite up our Director of Nutrition Services, also Glendora Unified School District's Administrator of the Year, everybody,
Yay.
Erin Meza,
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Director of Nutrition Services.
Good evening, everybody. Tonight, I wanted to present an update to the board for Board Policy 5030, Student Wellness, for your review. Following a recent audit by the California Department of Education, our district received some technical assistance indicating that while we have an existing wellness policy in place, it currently does not meet all federal requirements under the USDA Local School Wellness Policy Final Rule. Specifically, the audit identified that our policy needs to include standards for all food and beverages provided but not sold to students during the school day. Such foods as, for example, foods served at class parties, celebrations, and incentives. In response to this technical assistance, we have proposed revisions to our student wellness policy to include guidelines ensuring that food and beverages provided to students align with the USDA Smart Snacks in Schools nutrition standards, encourage the use of healthier options or non-food rewards for celebrations and events, and add simple, clear nutrition guidelines to assist parents and staff when bringing food items inside the classrooms. These updates will bring our policy into compliance, strengthen our commitment to student health and wellness, and better align our practices with current federal and state expectations. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. We appreciate that presentation. I'll bring it back to the board. Is there any discussion about that presentation? Okay.
Thank you for doing that. I'm sad to see that we were out of compliance, but I'm happy you're here to take care of all that. what are we doing, or what is the plan to educate our community, our parents, our teachers, as far as the changes to this policy and what those snacks now look like? You know, I know sometimes in the counseling office, we get a little candy, you know, just different things that have just been, you know, the norm. So what are we doing, and is there a plan for that type of outreach?
Well, currently I've been meeting with different community groups, including our coordinated health committee, also the PTA groups, to start outlining plans just to communicate these new things, changes to the wellness policy.
So is there like go
We'll
ahead.
communicate it through our principals in our next principals meeting as well, now that it's.
And so then that'll trickle down into the school community?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Being part of Coordinated Health Council too, I want to brag about all of Ms. Mays' hard work, but one of the things that's been really cool is to be able to see how this is developed from what we need to what would be really useful for our students. And talking with the Student Coordinated Health Council meeting with PTA presidents and members of the community. Additionally, one of the things we talked about was like send homes, which was really cool, so that parents know what they can offer when it's their child's birthday or a celebration. And then also that I didn't realize that the nutrition services offers a whole host of things that parents can call and organize and set up to be delivered to classrooms that meet all of these requirements, which makes it super user-friendly. And also, if you have a parent who's working or has a difficult time getting to campus to drop things off, it can just be handled, which is really cool. So I think there's gonna be a lot of discussions with nutrition services in what they offer and kind of marketing some of that to our community members quite a bit more. Yeah. Great job.
Thank you.
Okay, that's the questions. Thank you very much for that presentation. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion for approval, is there a second? Any further discussion amongst the board? All
No.
those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Thank you very much, it passes unanimously.
No second reading necessary.
Yeah,
all
you're
right.
good.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Got first and second reading, thank you. Okay, that moves us down to item 6.8, which is to approve or ratify the Multitudes platform as the K2 reading screener as presented. Dr. DeGrazia?
Thank you. I'm going to send it right over to Dr. Naharo, who will explain why Multitudes was selected as the reading screener for the coming year.
Good evening, thank you very much. Board President, board members, cabinet, executive cabinet. First of all, I want to thank some of my reading intervention teachers who are also here this evening, because they have done the bulk of the work to get us where we are for this presentation and for us to ask for your recommendation this evening. So SB 114 is the reading screener, say that 10 times fast, bill, and this is from Ed Code section 53008 subsection D. And basically what this is, hello? There it goes, is that all kindergartners through second grade students will be screened for risk of reading difficulties, increasing early identification and support annually beginning in the 25-26 school year. So what is the purpose? The purpose is for that screening should be considered part of our school's comprehensive instructional strategy and should be used to inform individualized instruction, measures, and progress, and enable parents and educators to discuss learning needs in a more informed way. And this is really just to help families and teachers achieve the best learning outcomes for all pupils in schools. So really what this is telling us is that we want to have a universal screening, which we really have had. All of our intervention teachers have done universal screenings, but now what it's saying is that the LEAs, us districts, have to adopt a screening instrument, and we need to have you adopt that, and so we had to go through a process to do that. So where am I? I don't know. Can you click it for me? Thanks. So the legislative intent was that by screening all pupils for risk of reading difficulties early, we can help families and teachers achieve this best learning outcome. And so here's some overview of this Ed Code.
It was that the board had to adopt the screener by June 30th, so that's why we're here this evening, a little bit earlier than June 30th, so we're ahead of the game. And part of the overview of the Ed Code was that there's timelines and notifications. So part of that is that when we do this, we have to make sure that before we screen, we have to notify parents 15 days before. We can do that in a variety of ways. Written notification, we can do that at back to school night. It can be part of our what we do annually at the beginning of the school year, or we can do that in a separate letter. After we screen, we have 45 days to give notice. So there's definitely certain timelines that we have to follow. We give reports to parents and teachers. There is an opt-out option, so parents can opt out in writing, and we put that in our letters so that they know that. There are some exemptions that can be done as well for students that might not be screened. If they were screened in a different district and then they transfer here, as long as we have proof of their screening, we don't do that. So there's lots of different things laid out. For multilingual learners, for pupils that do not speak sufficient English, they are to be screened in their primary language. The screeners that are developed and that were approved by the state, there's 3 of them that are in Spanish, and then some of the screeners had the ability for some translations in other languages, and then there's steps that are outlined for the multilingual languages. And then there's a couple other pieces that are in the overview of the Ed Code, and if you could click for me. One is that there are supports and services for students that are identified as at risk, that then we do that there's evidence-based literacy instruction, that there's progress monitoring. This is key, that there's early intervention in the general education classroom. So the first step after that is that there's intervention within the general education classroom. And then there could be one-on-one or small group, which could be in the general education classroom or follow up within a tier 2 environment, or there's further evaluation or diagnostic assessment. So it doesn't automatically mean that a student is then pulled out. And that's the next slide, which is really important, which is the unacceptable uses of the screening results. And these are spelled out in the Ed Code. And this is really important. Screening shall not be considered an evaluation or diagnostics tool to establish eligibility for special education services and a plan for 504. This is really an important part of the Ed Code, that these screenings are a tool to provide information to parents and teachers on if a student is on target or if they need support within the classroom or perhaps some extra supports by an intervention teacher. But it does not mean that a student has dyslexia. It does not mean that they have a reading disability, and it does not mean that they need special education or a 504. It is just a universal tool to guide instruction, and it specifically says that in Ed Code, and that's really important. Again, Ed Code also gives more unacceptable uses of the screening results. It says it should not be used for any high-stakes purpose. It's including, or but not limited to, teacher evaluation, accountability, grade promotion or retention, identification for gifted and talented, reclassification for English learners, or again, identification for students with exceptional needs. So let me explain a little bit how these were chosen. So when SB 114 was first passed, it said, okay, first the state had to convene a panel of experts that then said, we are going to look at all of these reading screeners and tell you, you can choose from these screeners that the state says, here are your options. So the state gave us 4 different options that we can choose from, and this is a chart showing you what those 4 were. And so we had Amira, we had M-Class Dibbles, we had Multitudes, and we have Roar. And so once those came out, which was in December of this year, my intervention teachers and myself started digging in. And so the first thing we did was we looked at a variety of criteria to what we felt was really important. for Glendora Unified, and we started really looking at all of these four. And we will tell you that right away, we ruled out Roar, which was the bottom one, because that Roar was one of the, out of these four, did not have Spanish. They were the only one that didn't have Spanish. So we didn't even continue on and looking at Roar. So if you go to the next slide, we began digging into, oh my gosh, I don't know how many webinars we attended. We attended every webinar and every preview that they gave us, and the state gave us, CDE gave us, all of the publishers gave us. We went to every webinar we could. And we had a lot of different charts, and we looked at some of the considerations: time to screen, the costs, the different benefits, the skills that they screened, the follow-ups that they offered after the basic universal screenings, the guidance they gave us for our multilingual learners, the different scorings, the communications that they supported for parents, the different professional learning opportunities. We then discussed and we looked at all the different pros and cons, and we really dug deep because we wanted to make sure what recommendation we gave to you as the board would really give us the best information to guide instructions for our teachers and for our intervention teachers. We wanted to make sure that we had the best tool to give us the most accurate information, that it was not too time consuming, but it was not too limited in scope as well. We didn't want it just to go through the motions. We wanted to make sure that it really was providing us the best information to guide instruction. So we looked at a lot. I can tell you there was one, Amira, she was interesting. Like I said, she was an AI component. They called her she. That was kind of interesting, to call a product by they personalized her. That was very interesting. But we really did. We dug deep, and if you go to the next slide, we really looked and we said, and the winner is, pending your approval, of course, we would like to recommend that we approve Multitudes. Multitudes is a universal screener, and it is actually from a university, and one of the great things about it is that there's no cost to California Public Schools. So the other, MDibbles was from Amplify, and Imira was from HMH. Both of those were a cost to the public schools. That is not why we immediately went to Multitudes, but Multitudes came from the Reading Institute, research-based institute. And so it was really based in deep research about reading difficulties versus a publisher. That was another thing that we were drawn to. It has great supports for multilanguage learners, not only in the fact that you could assess in Spanish, but there's pieces that were, if you have someone that speaks that language, that can be translated into many different languages, which the other screeners did not. The screening time is about 10 to 15 minutes per student. It has a great data platform. It integrates with our ClassLink platform that we already have. And it had probably the most wide variety of professional learning. The basic professional learning, which is also free to the district, was asynchronous. Some great asynchronous webinars. Actually, I think I already went to one, and there's one Wednesday, the first basic one to learn how to use the platform. But then they also have ones that are at cost, but there's a series of, I believe there's 7 different series that we can go in depth with, which not only trains deeper into the platform, but just on reading difficulties in itself. So some really great professional learning. And once we do the universal screenings, they give scores and reports that really just say if they're either on target or supports are needed. And once they say if there's more supports needed, they give some more testing, and they give recommendations for what that those diagnostics might be for that. And so we are really excited about that. If we go to the next slide, just some next steps and some timelines. So right now we are at the end of April, and we are going to be asking for your approval for Multitudes to be our screener. In the spring and summer, we are looking at some of our foundational training. In July, we are looking at rostering. In the fall, we're gonna be looking at some more in-person training. And then throughout next school year, we do some more training and, which actually complements our science of reading training that's coming up. And then next school year, we, start notifying parents, and we will do our first round of training, screening, next spring. One of the other things as part of Ed Code, for the reading screeners is that it does leave it up to the school district to determine when it is best to screen. It recommends, of course, that since it's K2, K1 and 2, that you want to make sure your kindergarten students have a foundation before you begin to screen. So of course you want to wait until at least the first half of the year for your kindergarten students. So that brings us to at least January. And we said, well, our reading intervention teachers would be the ones who are going to be doing the screenings. We don't want them to stop servicing students in the middle of the year, which pushes us to screen them in the springtime. And so by doing that, we have made the decision, at least for the first pilot year of screening, to screen all students in the springtime. Because if you screen kindergarten students in the spring of one year, you don't want to screen the first graders right at the beginning. There's not enough time in between that to see the difference. So we're going to screen all students in the spring, which sets everybody up for the following year as to how to best group and service them. And so then also in the spring, we would give parents and teachers the data, and then spring and then fall of 2027, we would be able to respond and have all of our instructional groups set up for the following year. So that is where we are. And, the best part, because I knew you might ask this, yes, there is funding for the professional learning that is attached to this. So we have already received $28,472 to fund the professional learning. So the fact that Multitudes does not charge the district to access the platform, we have more than enough money to train our reading intervention teachers to access and dig deep into the platform. So we are able to do that. And so we are asking that the board approve Multitudes as our reading screener. And then if you have any questions for myself or our reading intervention teachers.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I have a question, but I'll wait until my time comes. So we'll start with Dr. Munoz. Any questions from you?
No, I think you did it for a thorough presentation, so thank you.
Any questions from you?
No questions. I really appreciate you showing us how you came to your choice. It makes a lot of sense, and it helps us to be informed on like how these things are being developed and what you guys are doing. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I think you said, what are they gonna ask me? I'm just gonna throw it out there so I don't have any questions. You did a great job, because I was like, well, I'm gonna ask her this, and then you answered it. So one thing, I do have a question, because this was a concern with like state testing, right, and assessments, that we don't get the results until like, you know, a year later, and that doesn't help. So how soon
They're instantaneous.
Good, I like that.
And so, again, we have 45 days to notify parents, but as soon as they're done with the screenings, we will develop a process once we're trained more on the platform of how we will get that out to the parents, but it'll be pretty quick after the screenings are done.
Awesome, and yes, and thank you so much for sharing the process of, you know, taking this on, because, you know, some of us don't know. And so I appreciate you being that thorough and saying more, because it helps. Thank you.
One more question. I'm sorry if you don't mind. Will there be mid-year evaluations? So I imagine like once somebody is identified as needing intervention, we're going to continue with the evaluations to determine if they're consistent or if they drop out of intervention?
That would happen through the intervention process.
Cool.
Which happens anyway.
Right. So we wouldn't be using this for that. That's a separate thing.
This is separate.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you.
Sorry, one more question. So this is from K through second.
K through second.
So the second grader will get assessed in springtime. And so then what happens with that student's assessment if they still need supports? Does that move on to a different program?
No, they would still be within the general ed classroom getting supports and or intervention if needed, and then they have other tools within intervention or the classroom for assessments.
So you have
but the
other
required screeners are K through 2.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
What are they reading? Are they reading stuff that they have in their classroom already, or like what I don't know is this says it's a reading screener. So does Multitude provide the reader too, or are they reading stuff that we're already familiar with, or?
in a reading screener, it's actually, it's kind of interesting to say, most of the time they're not actually reading. A reading screener, especially at the primary level, they might be doing some letter sounds, they might be reading words, sometimes they're reading nonsense words, sometimes they're actually maybe even doing number sequences, because they're looking at different, the way your brain sees different skill sets. Sometimes they're doing rhyming words, sometimes they're doing sentences, so it's actually not necessarily reading passages like you might think of reading, because it's a way they assess certain skills that determine reading successes. So it's not curriculum-based or book-based, but it's skill-based. My reading experts, it's been a long time for me, but my reading experts, did I answer that? Okay.
So I understand what you're saying, so how, and I need to vote on this.
Yes.
So how do I know what kind of phrases, or what kind of words, or what like, so this is different than what I thought. So they're
Yes.
not reading a paragraph out of a book and
No.
being screened about that. They're gonna be given a word, or they're gonna be given a phrase, or they're gonna be giving a thing that is something that multitudes has, and then from that thing, I'll just say it could be a picture, or whatever they're gonna do. They're gonna show them a picture, and they're gonna take some screening thing from that.
They give them a score. Yeah,
So-
there's a battery. It's a battery of
It's a battery of
assessments.
tests. So
Yes.
have you walked through all of those?
We have walked through. Yes, we've walked through them. I've walked through them through the training, through the basic training. There's an upcoming training. We've done some samples. We've done some webinars. Did anybody want to speak? You've seen them. We've done them through. We've watched them, and like I said, we have our upcoming training. April 30th is our first one. I went to one over break, over spring break, where it's basically the student has a computer, the assessor has a computer, so we're not creating them. It is computer generated, and then there is. Each grade level has a different subset of skills that is assessed. Kindergarten, I think, has, don't quote me, I think it's 4 or 5 skills. 4? I think it's 4, and then first has 5, and I think second has 5 as well, but different skills. And there's a certain amount of questions at each, and it'll come up on the screen for the student, and then the reading intervention teacher is the facilitator. And so it might come up, they might have a series of letters for kindergarten, and they might be saying the letters, or they might be saying the sounds of the letters. Or it might even be, I don't know, a nonsense word that might come up on the screen. So it might be a word that they've never seen before. And it might be like B-T-O, and they actually try to read it to see if they can sound out the letters. That's why it's called a nonsense word, right? Yes. The vowel. Okay. And so I know it sounds weird, but it's a word that's not necessarily that they normally use, but it is to see if they can put vowel, consonant, vowel together.
I just, you explained it. I just want to make sure you guys have looked at this.
Yes.
It's academically appropriate. There's no shocking things that are going to show up, and
It's all letters and
somebody's going to
sounds
run
and
and
words.
say, "How dare you show this?" I mean, you know what I'm saying? Because I have no clue what the test looks like. You're asking, you want me to vote for something that I think is really important, but I have no clue what it looks like, what it feels like, other than hey, multitudes is good and it's the best one. And
Come on up.
I just
These
want to make sure.
These are the experts that have also seen it.
Yeah,
so.
just for me, and
Yep.
I'm only one vote.
Right.
I just want to make sure you've gone through it. There's nothing. It's academically appropriate for K through 2, and because I have no idea.
Hi, I'm Katie Bayless. I'm at Cullen. I think the fantastic thing is that when we've had experience with training that the district has provided us with Spire, and that's based on Orton Gillingham's approach, when we look at that and we look at the tests that we also have already been using, maybe you've heard of Renaissance. And so we're also doing Renaissance testing. And so that is in a combination. This is just a more thorough test of kind of like a combination. We're looking at usually a minute timer. Can the children identify uppercase, lowercase? Can they be able to give us the sound? Can they do it within a minute? Can they look at expressive or non-expressive? Can we look at different words? When it's identified for those children, at that given point, will they be able to identify? And if not, then that is what we want. We want to know, is this a potential for this child to not be successful? And what strategies can we put in place in the classroom to help that child with that possibility of not understanding?
All right, I understand it better now that I asked the question. I still, I'm still putting faith in that you're recommending this, it's academically appropriate.
But there's nothing that's gonna pop up that is going on the screen that's going to be inappropriate for a 5, 6, or 7-year-old.
Perfect.
That I can assure you.
Enough said.
That
Okay,
I can
enough
assure
said.
you.
I have no further
There's
questions.
gonna be no content that is inappropriate.
Okay, and no further, anybody else? All right, thank you. I'll bring it back to the board. Is there a motion?
I'll motion.
There's a motion and is there a second?
There's a second.
Motion and a second. Is there any further board discussion before we move forward? Nope. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? No. Thank you very much. Thank you for hanging out with us for that. I needed that extra push. I appreciate it. 6.9 is approval of the Ethnic Studies course outline as presented, which has been changed to discussion of the Ethnic Studies course outline as presented. Dr. DeGrazia.
Yes, I'll throw it over to Dr. Prince for a summary of the recent changes.
Yes, so as we have discussed prior, Assembly Bill 101 was approved on October 8th, 2021, which updated Education Codes 51225.3 and 51226.7 related to people instruction, requiring the implementation of a one-semester ethnic studies course. Glendora USD Social Sciences content expert teachers collaboratively developed a semester-long ethnic studies course outline. Feedback from GUSD Board Trustees, the Ethnic Studies Community Committee, and the GUSD community was taken into consideration, leading to multiple revisions. It is recommended that the board discuss the Ethnic Studies course outline, which was placed on the website for the last week and a half. This course would begin implementation as a pilot program in 25-26 school year, as outlined in AB 101, with a voluntary elective course offering.
Thank you for that presentation. Greatly appreciated. Is there any questions about the presentation?
I do want to thank you for taking into consideration the community's input with some of the concerns that they presented. I think you did a fair job, and the committee did a fair job in ensuring that everyone's concerns were addressed. I'm sad that we're not voting on it today, but I do believe it is important that all board members are present for that vote. So for that reason, I requested that we delay the vote. We did receive more emails, from community members, a lot of them in support of the new revised curriculum, so thank you. I personally want to say I appreciate the changes. My only concern is, or better said, clarification. So we will no longer be offering it this summer, correct?
That is correct. It would not be offered during the summer. It would be offered during the year as an elective class for students who signed up for it. And the plan would be for one class section per semester.
But how would the kids sign up for it when the course request was done? Did we have it already on the request list for the high school for them to request it in the fall?
No, so it said at the time CCP or ethnic studies, depending on which one was a requirement with the board. However, what we would do, and I had done this prior, when I was principal at Goddard, when we added an elective after the course request, is you basically put out notification to the students. And if you can get them before summer, that's the ideal, because then they are not going to check their school communication or emails anymore. They're usually happy to be rid of us for a few weeks. And you basically send them a Google form and say who would be interested in this if it worked with your schedule. And then they would put in that course request, and the high school team would see how it worked with scheduling.
And it is a one-semester course, and I believe in the rollout that you had posted online, it said that approximately 70 students would be able to take it that first year.
Yes.
Because it's 2 semesters, so 35 the first
35 and
semester, so
35.
just one teacher is teaching it, just one class at a time. And now it's going to be open from 9th grade, 10th, 11th, and 12th, so anyone in those grades can. So there's gonna be potentially a lot of kids who want to take it but can't, correct?
Potentially.
Okay, and then it'll come back to us for vote again to add it as a graduation requirement.
Yes.
Correct? Because at this point, it is just a pilot, and it's gonna come back when? Like in January, or is that gonna be?
The plan is for January, but it truly depends on AB 101.
Okay, so let's say the governor decides not to fund this. Are we going to not bring it back, given that we've put in all this work and that we've made it what's the word? Elective? Are we just gonna let it drop off, or is it something that it's gonna come back in January regardless of funding?
It'll come back for discussions, but graduation requirements are recommended by, usually the team, but approved by the board. So whether that would become a graduation requirement without it being AB 101 enforceable would be up to the Board of Education.
Okay, but can it be an elective without it being a graduation requirement?
Yes, there's a number of schools that have already had it in place as an elective well before AB 101.
Okay. I'm just thinking ahead to the different possibilities of protecting the work and the money that has already been spent on creating this outline. So I'm just thinking out loud, and again, for the benefit of the community. A lot of this I understand, but I want to verbalize it so that we all understand where we stand. So then it'll come back in January, for whichever that direction goes. And then if it gets approved, then we put it, and is it gonna be only for 9th graders, or is it gonna remain an option for all grades?
If approved for it to be a graduation requirement, it would move to all 9th graders to be implemented with the counter of that health and CCP, which it would be called Smart Start.
Okay, but it would no longer be available as a elective for the other grades?
If they hadn't taken it and there was space, there would be a potential for that.
I think that's all I have.
So to clarify on that one, for example, we have a student who, if there was a school district who was implementing it their 10th grade year at another school district, and they moved here and missed our 9th grade year but hadn't had it yet, we could make sure that we had a spot for them so they would have that graduation
Because they're
requirement.
transferring as a 10th grader, not
Yes.
having taken the course?
Yeah.
Got it, okay. And then at that point, would it still only be 2 semesters, just the summer? Or would it be offered during the school year? Just the summer, or? Because right now CCP, and is that offered during the school year? Yes. Okay, never mind then. All right, that's it.
Any other questions?
I had a question. The curriculum,
So when you have when we have an A through G course outline, so we send those to College Board, it's not like your normal textbook adoption where we put the student materials out and people can peruse through all student materials. It's a course outline, and so once that course outline is developed, then you go into teachers developing lesson plans or materials. But there's no, just like with aviation, there's no actual textbook to look at and peruse, or like your science textbooks. It's different. So the course outline is usually what we provide for those electives, yeah.
So if later on, just like Monica was saying, this was mandated by the state, and there was already curriculum that teacher designed already, would the board have a chance to review that?
So that one's a tough one, because the course outline is really what they utilize. Now, if there was something, so for example, I have seen some school districts, they did their course outline and then they had sort of a self-made packet or book for students that had all the reading materials and handouts in them. And then they've provided that for, because that's student materials, then they've allowed that preview. But not a lot of districts did that. There weren't a huge number of materials to put into a self-made book.
Okay, no other questions?
Okay, so I think there's a lot to discuss with this. For the people who are out there that look at this and think it should be a slam dunk easy thing for us to pass, there's far more to this than meets the eye. I think of note number one is that the money that has come in that you want to talk about protecting, which I think is important, is still only 20% of what should be allocated annually for this course based on the governor's initial projections. So I think that waiting for this to be approved financially from the governor actually does a lot more to protect this course than passing it preemptively. And I hope, and I implore anybody who sent us an email or signed anything, I hope that you all have sent an email to the governor imploring him to fund fully AB 101. That is what a big hangup for a lot of people is in this, district-wide or statewide. A lot of people are saying, if this is not funded, there's no need for us to break our back to put this into place. So we've heard a lot from the community, which I appreciate and I want to thank you all for, but I'll ask you to do the extra step, which would be to communicate to the governor that AB 101 should be funded fully as it was promised initially. That's a big piece of all of this. The other thing is we heard people speak today about that there may be some hesitation based on what could be in this curriculum. And I really want to take a minute to acknowledge that every one of these underrepresented groups in this outline are part of the U.S. history curriculum, with the exception of Native Americans, which I think are middle schoolers, correct? Middle school learns about Native American history.
Elementary, 4th and 5th.
4th and 5th, I'm sorry, thank you.
They're also included in 8th as well as high school history.
So I want to be really clear that I don't think that there's anybody on this board that is, and I'll just speak for myself, that is worried about having a conversation or teaching our kids about these populations. I think that's really exciting and really great. I want to make sure that this is something that is implemented appropriately and effectively. I would not want to be like some of the districts that have had to remove this and take it out. I would like it to be implemented effectively and appropriately. So that being said, I have to say I want to be a huge thank you to the executive cabinet and all of the work that you guys have done, because this has not been easy for anybody. And I know it's taken up a lot of extra time that maybe we didn't plan on, so thank you to the executive cabinet. I also have to thank our teachers and counselors and site administrators who I've met with, who have worked really hard at trying to figure out how we can get this palatable for everybody. And I think that moving in the direction of making it a optional course offering for our students is really exciting as a pilot. I think a true pilot is something where we look at everybody having an opportunity to take the course, see what they took out of it, and not forcing it on anybody, which is really great. I like that we're holding off on the graduation requirement. I think that's really meaningful for right now, so thank you. And so I think there's a lot of great things. I'm looking forward to an opportunity to get to vote on this. It's unfortunate that tonight wasn't the night, but I do think, and the last thing I'll say, is it's really important that we don't use these ideas or events as political footballs for our community. I hope that we can all take a step back from what we want to get or what we need to make sure that we're all rallying around our kids. And regardless of what emails come through or what people are saying what, I think it's important for us always to come back to that and focus on academics. I will be the forefront of what my decision looks like throughout this entire process. And I think that we definitely, we were talking earlier tonight about what this looks like for our community as it pertains to things like a track and a bond and what that looks like for all of our students at different places. And none of that's gonna happen if we don't come together as a community, guys. We all have to come together. So we're doing our part. the executive cabinet has definitely done their part, so thank you. And I know that our teachers, classified staff, and administrators have done their part. And so we'll continue to keep looking at this to get it done the right way, which I'm excited about. Questions I don't have, because I think we've clarified everything, which has been really good. As long as, you know, what we get a chance to vote on is what we're talking about, I'm really excited to see what this could look like. So thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion, questions on the staff report? No? All right. So we've heard the staff report. I'll bring it back to the board for discussion. Any further discussion from the board at all? All right. So we discussed it, and it'll come to a date certain on the agenda. We will move on to item 7, which is the.
Are we changing that together, or, I mean, do I need to move that it comes back, or what is it?
I think you
Sorry,
moved that, or I think you asked at the beginning.
Well, just to change it to discussion, want to update to a discussion only item and not
Okay.
vote tonight.
So
But if
can
we
I move to bring this for a vote on the next meeting, which is May 12th?
Okay, so there's a motion.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? No. Okay, thank you very much. That brings us to the consent item portion of the agenda, which is approval of all the consent items 8.1 through 11.2, which is about $12.7 million of business activity. Is there any trustee that wants to pull anything off of that agenda for discussion?
Can I pull item 9.3 for discussion, please?
Item 9.3 looks like about a $6,000 discussion, so we'll pull that one off. Is there any other, anything else being pulled off? All right, so may I have a motion for approval of all the consent items 8.1 through 11.2 minus 9.3?
Make a motion?
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition to that? Motion passes. We have item 9.3. Dr. Cam.
Do we know, this is in approving a agreement with a neuropsychologist, I believe is the official title?
Yes, for an independent evaluation, for an IEE.
Roughly how many do we do a year?
I would have to get back to you with that information, quite a few.
This is not to exceed $6,000 per assessment, correct?
Yes.
Okay, because that's just the reason I wanted to ask about that is I wasn't sure how many times we refer out to this individual or this practice for these assessments. And so, anyway, just wanted to touch base on if that's happening more often or less often, but maybe you could follow up.
Usually we do our own evaluations, but there are occasions where we will have to outsource. Sometimes it's something we request, other times it's a parent requests it.
Cool. Yeah. Awesome, thank you. That's all I needed.
That's it?
Yep.
Okay, so we have item 9.3. May I have a motion for approval?
Whole motion?
Is there a second? Motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on 9.3? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposition? Thank you very much. That passes. That brings us all the way down to item number 12.1, which is adjournment. It is 8:04. We adjourn this meeting tonight. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.